To be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Good morning. Thursday morning. Before we get started here, I just want to hop on a quick story that I saw when I first woke up this morning. We are early on Thursday morning here. I know my eyes are a little swollen. Early morning is not a good look for me, so bear with me today. But I got a quick story about the Amy Coney Barrett nomination that I just want to touch on before we get into things. We got to cover the VP debate and stuff. But Democratic senators have started meeting with Barrett for some unknown reason. And so she's basically been on what someone on Twitter called a charm offensive, which is to say she's been trying to meet with everybody to gain some legitimacy. And these senators, who some of them might be yours, are helping out in that. We got Senator Feinstein, Leahy, Durbin, Whitehouse, Klobuchar, Coons, and Booker. All of them have, over the past couple of days, met with Barrett about, judicial independence. What's your judicial philosophy? And I don't understand in the first place why Democrats are surrendering on this. They've had so much power and so many things they could do. They only had the last 46 days to the election, and then they gain an extra senator if Martha McSally goes down in Arizona to Mark Kelly. But instead, what Chuck Schumer has done is completely mess this up. He doesn't seem to care one bit. I don't even think he really cares in the end. And what's insane is the Democrats have spent the last, 20 years talking about the court and how Republicans are going to fill the court. What about RBG? You can't vote against us. What about RBG? Absolutely insane that they would ditch the main thing they fear-mongered on. Their base is angry about RBG. They're still mourning her. It's been a couple of weeks. And all they've done is just surrender, point after point, and retreat, point after point, until at this point the hearing is going to be October 12th, and there is no plan to try and stop it before November 3rd. McConnell is running the show. So shame on Feinstein, shame on Booker, shame on Durbin, who is my former senator, for ever lending any sort of legitimacy to this process when we are maybe 3 weeks out from the election now. Absolutely insane and embarrassing. But I'll get off my soapbox. Let's run the intro. Hey folks, welcome to Social Point. I'm Seamus McGinnis. Before we get into things today, I just want to thank everyone who watched the first episode. I expected maybe 8 views on that first one. So everyone who took the time to check it out, thank you so much. And if you're back again, thank you even more. It means the world to me that people are willing to watch. And before we get into it, I know that in the last episode I talked about being on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but now we actually are. So there will be links down below to subscribe to the podcast format if you'd prefer the audio only for your commute or something. But we got lots to get into. We got to talk about the VP debate, and then we have a can't miss climate story about Exxon and basically their willingness to prioritize profit margins over the future of the planet. But we got to start with the wonders of Mr. Michael Pence. So the first vice presidential debate was last night. Honestly, far more boring than that first one. Obviously, when you take Trump out of the equation, things are going to slow down. But man, was it a slog. It felt like at least 6 hours. I mean, the first one felt long, but in sort of a embarrassing, slow motion car wreck kind of way. But it also kind of flew by like a car wreck would. But this was just painful, absolutely painful. So we got a couple of things to get into about it. First off, just surface level verdict. Kamala absolutely leveled Mike Pence. It was an embarrassment. She laid out a number of failures of the administration. She opened strong with that speech about COVID and about how they sat by. They knew in January 28th, which she did Rubio on that point a little bit. She repeated it a little too much. But that they sat by, that they just had no bearing, no care for human life, for American lives. And the best Pence could come up with was, we trust the American people, which 200,000 people are dead. It was appalling that he would head up a task force for it, where we still have mask protests on the daily around this country that he would be willing to just say, we trust the American people and we've done a wonderful job responding immediately, when they sat on their hands until they absolutely had no other choice. And this is going to be a pretty common theme of the day, but Pence lied. Pence lied a lot. Trump didn't even respond to COVID by shutting down travel from China, and that was some claim where Biden opposed it. All of that was BS. The airlines were the ones that had to shut down travel between China and the US. Trump took an extra month after that, after February 6th, in order to do it, and there was still business waivers that let people go back and forth. So the insane fear-mongering over China, which I personally fear from both Biden and Trump, is going to lead us into some kind of new Cold War, but that is a very much post-election issue. There's too much else to talk about. But more generally speaking, Mike Pence was just an embarrassment last night. Absolute hot garbage, total lies all the way through. It was embarrassing, it was racist, it was pandering, it was condescending. What a just embarrassing performance. You know, Trump and his sycophants and Trump and himself are obsessed with this sort of alpha male persona. And the fact that Pence was willing to come out here and just on every single issue, every single valid critique that Kamala had of the administration, all that he could respond with was, "How dare you, Senator? How dare I find it very offensive that you would ever insinuate that." Absolute insanity to come out there and have that be your defense. I can't think of anything more beta and more just constantly being the victim when you've inflicted such terror and fear and such just reign of evil on the American people for 4 years. To come out there and play like you guys are the victims is appalling. And it was amazing because you could truly just see his soul rot on stage. I mean, a fly landed on his head. I mean, everyone's been talking about it, obviously. But it's just he knows he's lying to you. He knows that he's not living in reality, but he doesn't care. And he showed that he doesn't care because he's willing to just prostrate himself for the great leader Donald Trump, and will not have any integrity about what he'll stand for or the pseudo-Christian values that he supposedly fights for. Stood for none of that. All he had to do last night was prostrate himself in front of the evils of the past 4 years of the Trump administration. And all he had to say was, take me into your arms, history. Take me into the annals of history as the white supremacist, the destructive, evil, xenophobic, homophobic piece of rotten garbage that I am, and the flies will find me because history is not going to remember him well. And I don't understand how he could ever believe that anything less than soulless lack of integrity will be how we remember him. You've been watching Social Point. If you enjoyed this video, please take a second to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify and iTunes if you enjoy the podcast format, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at SocialPointPod. Thanks for watching.